All right, everybody, we're bringing you some action. We've got Bad Macro Flip Bird on the left-hand side of your screen, and the right-hand side of your screen, Random Gaming. We don't have the admin mode. We jumped into the lobby a little too late, but that doesn't mean we can't spectate and bring some action anyways. We're seeing that 113 that you mentioned earlier, and of course, everybody's going to be making it to that contestable Audino Jeff.
Something that we see going on here from a team comp perspective is one that I think is actually potentially a very good idea. For our right side team here, we notably have that Dragonite in the attacker role as opposed to the jungle role. So this means while you likely won't be that Dragonite with Hyper Beam for that first Dreadnought, they're going to potentially have that secure for late game objectives, especially that Zapdos at the very end.
Absolutely. We see Above HD working back Wiggly. You mentioned it earlier that they have been working on Wiggly. Historically, we see them on that Mr. Mime, a great Mr. Mime player, and it's critical for Bruv to get to level 4 to unlock that Sing, which is a great way to avalanche into that bottom lane. Moving up, we see Dexter and Gosu easy peasy, kind of locking down that top lane and feeling pretty good with a good amount of space. So let's jump back downstairs and see if this Gossifleur can become an Eldegoss.
Something that I want to point out that happened in our bottom lane here is not only did our left side team, Bad Macro Flip Bird, secure that top Dino, but they also pushed over and were able to bully the Dinos of our right side players. And this is the real upside to having this Pikachu along with your Wiggly. It gives you such a powerful early game when you provide the CC from Wiggly Sing along with the Electronet from Pikachu.
Absolutely, and Snow Point's no slouch with that Leaf Tornadoes. We just saw them pick up what I believe to be the first KO of the game out of that support healer Pokemon, Eldegoss. Snow Points, like I said, Leaf Tornado is their bread and butter, and they are not afraid to get into the mix, as BMFB is still pressuring into the face of Random Gaming, into their Audinos.
Something I always like to point out when we're watching these games, while we have that scoreboard that tracks how much AOS energy has been dunked at the top of the board, the other numbers that are basically a scoreboard as well are those levels at the bottom. And if we look here for Bad Macro Flip Bird, all of their bottom lane characters are level 5 and 6, while Random Gaming still has a 3, a 4, and 1 person at 5. So that's a metric that's really important in these early game team fights.
Random Gaming pressuring the opposing jungle with that Greedent coming in, and that KO in the top lane on the jungler of BMFB is a rare sight for that team. They're usually pretty good about staying up, but here we go. The pressure is on to the Greedent, and they do not want to let them escape, as there's three players there that chased them down and took that KO. Snowpoint's going to get back into their duties in the bottom lane as that Dragonair is scoring up top.
Yeah, really interesting rotations here from Random Gaming. We started with the Dragonair in the typical 1-1-3 in the bottom, and then the Greedent was solo top, but then pivoted after these first Bs into pressuring the jungle, with the Dragonair rotating up to contest farm at the top of the map.
Absolutely, and these bees are getting absolutely melted. The first objective that these teams like to focus on is typically Dreadnought, so we're going to see what happens there, as Random Gaming is sharing just under a 40-point lead going into this 7-minute mark.
Now, two things we want to be watching as we get to this dread fight is, first, our junglers are at level 7 for Cinderace on the left and 8 for Charmeleon on the right. 9 is the really key level for these characters where they power spike for these team fights.
This fight is breaking out, and it's a Wigglytuff down on both sides, as now Gosu and Chris are trying to bubble out Random Gaming and work through this Dreadnought as they take 3 KOs in that bottom lane. Just the Greedent hanging out down there, and we're going to see if we can get into that action, as Chris Hero and Gosu is going to work on the Greedent, but the Greedent's going to try and seal up this Dreadnought for the squad, and they do, and they have just enough speed to get through with that Belch, take it down for the squad, as the rest of Random Gaming is starting to move in different directions, and they have to feel good about the heroics from the big old fat squirrel.
And this is exactly what we were talking about in the pregame, where you give up this Dragonite in your jungle, and all of a sudden your objectives secure become a lot more dicey, because you just don't have a character that can deal that last concisive hit when your jungler is something like Cinderace.
They're putting pressure on TB here, getting caught with 3 players. That close combat that you mentioned earlier, and that's a Unite move just to try and stay up and retreat back to the berries and hold down this goal zone in the face of these buckets getting rained in here. Bruv able to sing and get out, as TB is not able to stem all of the bleeding. But we're going back upstairs here as Gosu's chasing down the Dragonite that we saw in the bottom lane, but now has just kind of been in a jungle invade position here, and Gosu is able to close it out on them, as now Dexter's working on the Greedent, and all of Random Gaming is here on top of Dexter.
Yeah, it's important to remember, Unite is a team game. So while Random Gaming's Wiggly was getting pushed up 3-1 on the bottom, they were making good inroads up top. They secured that Rotom, they pushed it in towards the second point, and they're getting a lot of dunks here. Now 61 to 200 points.
205. This is the Japanese meta we've kind of heard of just score, and it seems to be that that's what Random Gaming is doing in the face of the more traditional NA approach that BMFB has been using. Chris Hero is putting the pressure on KO Streak a 2 for Gosu Easy Peasy, the Cinderace, and they're going to see if they can chalk it up, but no, Chris Heroes plucks that third KO out from the hands of Chris Hero.
As we watch the battle start to unfold here, again, remember to watch not only those scores at the top, but also the levels of our characters at the bottom, which also puts our orange team a bit ahead here. 2 level 11s and only 1 level 9 to 2 level 9s and a single level 11 for Bad Macro Flipbird.
That just shows the importance of that first Dreadnought. Random Gaming, you mentioned how far behind they were on their levels, and they got the Dreadnought, had some good pressure, took some KOs, and there you go. We're able to see them bring parity to those levels now, as all of BMFB is putting the pressure on Random Gaming here, and they can't really find their way to the objective as Gosu's working it on them by themselves.
Yeah, the Dragonite is now online along with these other characters. Contest here. All right, right side team secures with their Dragonite again. This is what you play Dragonite to do. You want these objectives secure, and Dragonite, even after this recent Hyper Beam nerf, is still the best character in the game at accomplishing that.
We're seeing all of Random Gaming in this bottom goal zone. KO Streak a 2 for the Greedent, and they're putting the pressure on Stuffy Cheeks, feeling full, and that's on the bodies of BMFB as they're able to close that goal zone out, and BMFB needs to make some key adjustments here because they're not only losing on the scoreboard, they're losing in levels as well.
Important thing to note, when you see these goal zones go down, we see these side Audinos come up on the top and bottom of the map, giving these teams a chance for some catch-up experience that the other team doesn't have available to. That being said, because there's less farm for Random Gaming now, though, they're able to pile onto the objectives easily because they don't have anything else to be doing.
Random Gaming burned through that Rotom, and BMFB just a step behind at every objective, as now they're forced to retreat. And quite frankly, I think they're just giving up their goal zone as Chris Heroes is babysitting it by themselves, going to keep that Rotom from doing too much damage. And the rest of the squad is rolling downstairs. Dexter's sitting on their goal zone, and all of Random Gaming is kind of just, they're wherever on the map that they want. They don't feel too much pressure, and they're doing as they please.
Yeah, something to point out here that we see the better teams do this quite frequently is they did not walk in with that Rotom. They secured that Rotom to apply map pressure in that top lane, and then they immediately fanned out and cleared all of the farm that had spawned on their side of the map. Look at how few yellow dots there are representing farmable Pokemon on the map in a situation like this. These teams know that levels are one of the most important things in a match of Unite.
Now we're seeing how oppressive Greedent can be as they're in the face of 3 players for BMFB, and BMFB is actually backing off the Greedent, able to hold down the entire team here. And we're going to go see Gosu Easy Peasy. They're trying to hold it down in this bottom lane and just have a presence somewhere.
Yeah, I'm going to be interested to see, do we see either of these teams approach this Dreadnought? It's looking like no one is positioning around to it. We've got Greedent up in the top lane along with Eldegoss, perhaps looking to try and get a sneaky 100-point score at the start of the 2-minute timer.
Yeah, we have just over 2 minutes left, and we know that Zapdos is going to be in there, and we know BMFB has to be considering that part of their strategy to close this thing out because they are getting slid on the scoreboard here. And Random Gaming has just babysat all of their Pokemon. And did I just see that?
Charizard soloed the Dreadnought at the bottom, granting not only a shield to get extra health, but also even more additional experience. We see 2 level 13s and a 14 for Random Gaming, and only 2 13s for Bad Macro Flipbird. Bad Macro is in a bad spot for this endgame team fight.
Oh, absolutely. They got split by that Greedent. Their attention went every which way as that Zapdos is getting worked on by Random Gaming. All of Random Gaming is pivoting past Zapdos to get more points in. That's a Unite move onto the Zapdos here. So all BMFB is there, and they're going to have to convert all these points. But look where Random Gaming is. They're in the face of that spawn point, and they're just getting their own points in. So yes, BMFB is going to get these easy ducats, but they need to make that 400-point gap, and it looks like everybody's just going back to base, and we're going to see if we can get any engages anywhere here, but Random Gaming's got to be feeling good about their position.
Yep, this is a spot where we are 1 single cap on either team away from getting back into the game, and then the Dragonite puts it in. So this over 100-point lead is a big number you want to watch for in this endgame. It means more than one person has to score, and getting 100 in is a tall order, much less more than that.
Yeah, all of Random Gaming, they executed their game plan on the scoreboard, and they're able to play back and play some defense and just use Gatlu to just be a menace and something that BMFB has to continually babysit while they're trying to get these points in. And Jeff, I just don't see it happening. It seems like Random Gaming might have buttoned this one up.
Yeah, this game was such a phenomenal example of how good players can take an early game lead and convert it into something that doesn't care about that Zapdos objective at the end game.
Absolutely. We're working through and we're seeing the United moves fly as BMFB is putting the most valiant effort they can into the gut goal zone and get the points. And Green's still scoring on the back end. They're getting their farm up. But I just saw points rain in. We're still down by about 156 points. 9 seconds left. KO streak of 2 for the Dragonite or the Charizard. And they're just mowing through BMFB. They've got them right where they want them. And they're getting heals in this zone as I think Random Gaming is going to go ahead and seal this game 1 up of the shiny league finale. Let's take a look at the scores here, Jeff.
Really dominant performance from Random Gaming. I think, honestly, seeing the value of that kind of later game team composition where Dragonite was able to provide those secures that they really needed. And honestly, really some innovation in terms of play patterns from their team as well, starting off with that 1-1-3 bottom and then pivoting the Dragonite up as well as a Greedent jungle invade. I'm going to be interested to see in game 2 if we see a similar strategy executed or if this is going to be less good now that we know what is going on for Bad Macro Flipbird.
I'll tell you what, that that Greedent looked really good. That Greedent looked very, very strong in the face of what BMFB was trying to do. And just, you mentioned map presence in terms of the objectives, but map presence in terms of where the Greedent was, and subsequently where the Dragonite ended up and where that Charizard was. I think each one of them took a spin into BMFB's jungle throughout that game, and just kind of splitting them up, keeping them off of what they actually want to be doing, which is sliding those lanes.
Yeah, I think just really innovative macro positioning from our players that game. That's not something that I've seen other teams execute before, and I think that's something we're going to see a lot more of as the Unite scene develops. You know, there's a lot to explore here in terms of not only what Pokemon you're playing in lanes, but where those Pokemon are going in terms of the rotations throughout the course of that early and mid game.
When you consider, you know, the history of Pokemon Unite versus other MOBAs, obviously the other MOBAs have years on this game. So to say that we've even scratched the surface of potential strategies, potential team compositions, and as well as nerfs and patches keep coming out, of course, that's going to shake things up. But God, you know, people don't give that much credit to Greedent, but it looked really, really strong there. Is there something that BMFB can do off the top of your head that can help combat that particular strategy that Random Gaming brought to the table?
You know, honestly, from my experience playing, I found the best strategy on Greedent a lot of time is just ignore it. You know, it's so difficult to kill as a Pokemon, and you have to consider what map presence you're giving up in other spots. You know, we saw points where 2 or 3 Pokemon converged and they killed the Greedent, but the map pressure they're giving up in other spots with 3 Pokemon converging onto 1 has a very real cost in the long run.
Yeah, and of course, you know, these teams are on comms. It's not like being in solo queue or duo queue where you only get to control a little small minutia of what your team's actually doing. And I would be hesitant to say that if they didn't call Gatglue to say, hey, you just waste some time, because that's when the Dragonite actually came over and started going into the jungle themselves. And you know, they're closing one door, yes, on the Greedent, but they've left the garage open for that Dragonite to start storming in. We have the next game up. I think they've started, and we haven't had the lobby code posted. So perhaps we can just jump in spectate mode and get right into it. What are your thoughts, Jeff?
Yeah, let's do it.
There we go. They are underway here. Let's jump right in.
These are best of 3 series, so some team composition changes here are things to call out. Something that we'll note from our Bad Macro Flipbird is they've chosen a larger character than Pikachu, trying to scale up a little bit bigger to match Dragonite's ability to scale from Random Gaming.
You know, Bruv, I mentioned they're a good mime player. They switched to Wigglytuff. They're back to their mime, which is truly their bread and butter, and I think their comfort pick. And Chris Heroes in tandem with that wall, that Confusion Blast, that big spike damage, is going to allow Chris Heroes to use that Petal Dance Giga Drain combination to not only get their own HP up, but really mow through the opposing Pokemon here. Random Gaming, though, they have to feel good. There's not a lot of flaws in their plan, and we're going to see if they execute the same way, starting with the same bottom lane setup as we saw in Game 1.
Notable there, we see that 5 Aeos energy going to the Eldegoss for Random Gaming. They are able to secure that top mid Audino, getting a lot of additional experience to start here. This one goes to Bruv as they apply pressure. This is, again, I think, with the Mime, probably a little bit better early game from our left side team here.
Yeah, the wall's being used by Bruv, and that's a classic maneuver that they do. Put up a wall and then actually smack through with the boosted auto attack of Mr. Mime, and that's how they close out a lot of these contestable Audinos and contestable mobs throughout this bottom lane. And they really want Bruv to get up to that level 6 to have that confusion barrier combination, again, to really ramp up that spike damage in the bottom lane and help out Chris Heroes to close the gaps on some of these Pokemon.
Again, just looking at the levels of the Pokemon here, our left side team just getting their first 4 in Wigglytuff, but they still have 2 3s down here, while the entire left side team has all level 4s and 5s now.
Gosu, Easy Peasy, and Dexter, they were able to take some of the Bs, but now they're getting chipped in and they're losing a lot of HP because of that. Perhaps Random Gaming focusing on the player rather than the mobs. Let's jump back down to the bottom lane here as Chris Heroes is trying to stem off Random Gaming and give the opportunity for Bruv and Snow Points to get those experience boosts by taking that contestable Adino in the middle. There's a Sing, doesn't catch anybody on BMFB, so they're able to scramble away. And look at that, still a Gossifleur on the side of Random Gaming. They're behind in levels yet again.
Yep, and it'll be interesting to see, can they convert these early Dreadnoughts to make up for the experience that they are behind to begin with here?
Yeah, they're going to need it, kind of what they did, a rinse and repeat of game 1. Hopefully the Greedent can come through with some more heroics. As we say, Greedent, look where the Raboot and the Greedent are. The Raboot for BMFB and the Greedent for Random Gaming. And it looks like BMFB has adjusted to the strategy you mentioned. Just leave it alone.
Yep. We see again with the Dragonair rotating up top as we see 3 people for Random Gaming on the top lane piling onto this Lucario.
Yeah, and Lucario can handle 2 players in the top lane. It's certainly going to have difficulty with 3, as now Greedent and Charmeleon are pressuring TE Dexter back down the lane, and that gives them the window of opportunity to close out that goal zone. Gosu, Easy Peasy in the opposing jungle trying to do the impression of Random Gaming's Greedent here, as this bottom lane is still going to war at each other.
Yep, and we note here again, our Random Gaming choosing to kind of give up this bottom lane a little bit to start in order to gain map pressure at the top. And notably, our Bad Macro Flip Bird chose not to contest those Bs up top. Dragonair getting all of them solo and likely going to get to come down at close to level 8, if not as a Dragonite already.
Perhaps seeing that they have the level advantage, and the only way that Random Gaming can bring parity to that is by taking the Dreadnought. Rotating early here as Bruv is isolating and picking off that Eldegoss, and the Sing trying to cut off Bruv from that KO, and it works as they're able to retreat Random Gaming back into their zone. Greedent's coming through with a chonky amount of HP as this fight is kicking off, and Chris Heroes is on point here, working through. The left side takes it. That's TE Dexter sealing it up, and now they're going to pressure with the experience, with the shields, and try and get some good AOS energy into this bottom goal zone as the pressure is flying. 2 players down for Random Gaming, none for BMFB. Look how far up the lane Chris Heroes is.
Now, one thing I'll be interested to see, are we choosing to break this goal zone or not? Something Bad Macro Flipbird frequently does is what we see here. They're electing to not bottom goal zone even if they could, and the reason for this is we see that Venusaur and that Lucario in the bottom lane choosing to stay there and farm those bottom dinos to gain extra experience. That
extra experience is going to be pivotal, but Random Gaming is all about that Rotom as they meet there as a collective and take it very easily in the face of Snow Points. And Bruv, the Mr. Mime, they're not willing to get into that action by themselves just yet. And of course, as you mentioned, that Rotom just sent for that map pressure as all of Random Gaming, we can see them, their orange pips moving across the map.
Yeah, and we see this Charizard in the bottom lane trying to contest some of this farm from Lucario, when while Charizard's very powerful at chewing through people, it's not particularly good at providing those last hits to secure that farm.
Absolutely. Gatlu coming in, putting pressure on with the Belch, forces TE Dexter to get back on the backside of their goal zone and get those berries, but the pressure's on and we're working through. Chris Heroes with a Petal Dance gets picked up by the Unite move Charizard, and now it's getting burned down with a Flamethrower, and there's a Unite move, a Hyper Beam able to take that, and the Unite move coming through in tandem. Chris Heroes still up. We're watching them retreat. Snow Point's pressure on. Hyper Beam takes out the Eldegoss, just burns that cotton ball down, as now Mr. Mime is stuck in the goal zone, protecting that by themselves, hoping that they can just stem this from just dissipating in their hands and give enough time for TE Dexter and Gosu Easy Peasy to come in and give support here. Finally, somebody takes down the dragon.
Something that's really important to acknowledge in these team fights from a who's getting ahead and behind perspective is, even though this team fight down here equated to 2 people being knocked out on both sides, the Bad Macro Flip Bird was higher level. So when their characters are getting knocked out, they're giving up more experience than Random Gaming is, catching them back up a little bit.
Big Unite move and a Fluffy Tail, and right side Random Gaming is able to take that second Dreadnought here. Unite move coming up out of Snow Point's going to try and split this squad up so the rest of BMFB can clean up the trash, and Gosu Easy Peasy kicking fireballs all over the place, but that's Gatlu getting down on the Lucario here, and we're going to see if Gatlu can put the pressure on, if they can seal up Snow Points. The Charizard and those dragons moving in tandem as they're working through this goal zone, and look at that presence in the bottom lane. And Snowpoints is doing their best, but I don't think they have the firepower to contest with a Hyper Beam and a Charizard, and on the nose, that's a KO. Seal it up, pack it in. BMFB has to take a different position on this map.
And this is huge. No longer is Random Gaming behind. They've not only secured the Dreadnought for a little bit of catch-up experience, but those 3 KOs allow them to get that very valuable catch-up experience. We now have level 12s on both teams. We've got all level 10s and 11s for everybody else. Suddenly, the scoreboard is very, very close in terms of where the experience is at.
That Charizard picking up Chris Heroes with a Unite move and keeping them from getting into the action on this Rotom here, as we're seeing all of the bottom laners go back to KOs, and we're jumping into the action as Bruv is trying to keep this Rotom from getting in and getting those easy points scored in their face. Something worth noting, Random Gaming not as big of a lead on the scoreboard as they did in game 1, so you have to think that BMFB has at least stymied their strategy a little bit here in game 2.
Yeah, this is likely not going to be a game where we saw in game 1 where the right side team Random Gaming was able to just give up that Zapdos and go and cap. They're not going to be able to make up a 500 point difference for everybody putting things in.
We're watching Dexter. Chris Heroes just bounces back Dexter and goes to easy peasy. I thought they'd pressure that goal zone a little bit. They are technically struggling to keep up, but I think they're in a much more comfortable position than they were in game 1 here. And look at the Eldegoss and Bruv. They're already posturing around Zapdos a little bit. That's a back there. Eldegoss running back through the middle. Not a lot of engagement here out of BMFB, playing very conservative in terms of what's going on the map here. And Random Gaming is about that action because they're trying to meet with BMFB and start taking some fights.
There's another Dreadnought coming up here at the bottom side, and Bad Macro Flip Bird is not in a good position to contest this. We see the right side team Random Gaming just getting on that objective and starting to rip it ASAP, and the Eldegoss steals. Oh, that's got to feel bad. You've got your Dragonite there, and you're wondering, where was the Hyper Beam Dragonite?
Oh, man. They're going to have a conversation with the Dragonite after that one. Eldegoss come through. I said Snowpoints was on the button with that Leaf Tornado, doing their best Mark Wahlberg impression. Sniper, as the Charizard is now working through.
Wow, this is huge. Charizard is had to Unite here kind of before the Zap fight starts and might still get taken down once the Unite finishes. Greedent coming into support, providing one of those buddy barriers. Very valuable tool.
Bruv able to use their Unite move to get out and get around the corner here as Dexter's chasing in, and we're watching Ghost to ECPs. They need to be in a mix. That's a Unite move on the button, firing that pirate ship wheel right into the gut of the other squad, and we're watching Bruvs on the edge. They get taken down. Ghost to ECPs still chipping in, and they're working on Tibby here, but here comes Chris Heroes. They're responsible for being the janitor on the squad and mop stuff up, along with Ghost to ECPs, and they're able to take a KO of 1. Look at Snowpoints leading the charge against the opposing Pokemon. 3 down on Random Gaming, and we're seeing BMFB make a pivot towards Zapdos. Dexter kicks that off as Ghost to Easy Peasy's on the chase. They decide to turn around and help close out this Zapdos here, as now people are coming off of respawn, and they're going to try and meet in the middle, and the Greedent might have to make some heroics here with a Belch, and they just miss it. Dexter seals it up, and now BMFB gets the option to just start raining in these points. Although they're already up by 5, they'd much rather like to stretch that lead out the best they can.
Hey, Cinder Ace goes down in the middle here, but some points are going up. You see Random Gaming sprinting valiantly towards the left side of the board, trying to get some points in here, but it's going to be a tall order to catch back up from this position.
Yeah, they're going to have to get back and play some defense. Chris Heroes got their marching orders, and they're there, and we've watched Dro. See if Bruv can hold off 2 here. Snowpoints just in the mix, just in time. Tibby getting pressured, getting walled, getting confused blast. Holding down both goal zones. BMFB has to be breathing a sigh of relief as they are doing pretty well playing defense here. A nice steel curtain, if you will, as all of Random Gaming is in that top goal zone, and that's only being held down by Ghost to Easy Peasy right now. Chris Hero's forced to bail out, and Tibby is going to try and get their points, and they go down in the face of the Cinderace, and now a Unite move by the Dragonite to free up that goal zone, but I don't think they have enough points in pocket and enough time to convert now that we are under 10 seconds in the game.
Yeah, over 300 points down. You need to be in your opponent's home base to be able to score that much. These inside points break at just 100, and this is an easy game 2 going to Bad Macro Flip Bird here.
Let's take a look at exactly what the final score here was. Let that load up for a moment. 596, 405. Just a different team out of BMFB. Maybe they were a little rusty getting out of the starting blocks, but they converted pretty well and adjusted well. And using the strategy that you mentioned, why chase the green? Let's just let them have some stuff. Let's put our pressure somewhere else on the map and make them adjust accordingly. Not a crazy amount of KOs on either side for any single individual. Worth mentioning. Aidsu up top there, 5 KOs, not bad. Highlighting the Charizard 7 assists, not usually the John Stockton of the squad, but they're able to go ahead and lock it in. I do believe if I'm not mistaken, I do have the lobby code. So let's see if we can get that entered and actually get a spectate mode going here, Jeff. Let's talk about random gaming a little bit.
I'm interested to see for this third game, does random gaming respond to how Bad Macro Flipbird adjusted their composition for this third game? Do they adjust their picks to account for Venusaur as opposed to Pikachu, or do they just say, okay, we missed a smite on a Dragonite at the Dreadnought that shouldn't have happened, we've got this time, we're going to run it down?
You got to keep confidence in your squad and what they're doing. BMFB, they were able to settle it out. Random Gaming clearly has a strategy in place that they're willing to use, and I agree with you. They need to stick with it and keep pressuring. No sense in changing up what worked. Just make sure you're converting on those opportunities you can. That lobby still not working for us, so we're going to jump into the spectate mode and do the best we can here, as we're going to have BMFB again on the left-hand side of your screen. Let's follow the orange squad. Let's follow Random Gaming this time around, Jeff. And I'm excited to see what this Greedent can bring to the table, and see if they can have that must deal with me pressure that they did in that first game here in game 3.
Yeah, I'm not surprised to see either team not change up their strategy. Obviously, Bad Macro Flipbird executed successfully that last game, and I think cleaning up a couple of small things, that random gaming strategy overall here still looks really good.
Yeah, I want to go back to that Dragonite in the bottom lane as the bottom lane attacker role. It's been working well and feeds into the strategy that they're trying to use. What's your gut reaction on that? I know you mentioned earlier, is there anything really better than Pika in the bottom lane attacker role? But the Danger Noodle seems to be doing all right.
Yeah, so it's kind of a trade-off, and I also think it's worth noting that the way Random Gaming is executing their macro gameplay is they're not really playing this Dragonite as a traditional attacker like we see a lot of these teams like Bad Macro Flipbird do. That rotation after the first Bs where the Dragonite goes up is very atypical, and we're seeing them kind of get that Dragonite ahead by putting it into the top lane while the Greedent griefs the jungle.
The Charmeleon able to come pick up Gatlu, the Greedent, and allow them to escape unscathed as the top laner and the jungler were there putting pressure on. And now everybody's, again, playing a little bit more conservative, staying on their side of the map, maybe not letting Gatlu quite loose on the opposing jungle just yet, as now they're contesting these Bs here, and obviously BMFB wants to get a majority of them, but it's going to be so tough in the face of Gatlu, who is such a stouty Pokemon and able to put the pressure on, but they might, I thought they had the opportunity to close the door, and Gatlu, that squirrel, able to evade.
Yep, it's looking like we're a little bit behind on the top lane for our players. Greedent only getting to level 4, while Lucario is approaching level 6 at this point. Bottom levels look very comparable, though. We've got 3 4s for Random Gaming on the right, while we've got 2 4s and a 5 for Bad Macro Flipbird on the left.
One thing I want to notice, or want to highlight, the Charizard rotated from the jungle into the top lane, and immediately that's when the Dratini rotated from the bottom lane into the jungle to start taking the second wave of jungle Pokemon. And now that's what the impetus was for the Greedent to start coming down and raking through the jungle and just being a menace here on BMFB's side of the map.
Yeah, really big KO pickup for Random Gaming. They only had 2 people left on the bottom. They were able to KO Bruv there, getting a little bit of catch-up experience, getting their folks up to level 5. Can Greedent actually get knocked out? The answer is no, never.
Not if you're planning on doing a one-on-one, you better bring some over levels and some firepower, because that Greedent is tough to deal with. BMFB able to get just a few points into the face of Random Gaming, who was babysitting the goal zone pretty tightly, but that just didn't matter. Score Shield just does work in these scenarios, and not enough DPS to kind of keep them off of getting those points in. 15 to 25, nothing to write home about just yet.
We see both of these teams prioritizing things a little bit differently. Charmeleon and Dragonair up top for Random Gaming, trying to push ahead in that top lane. We see them break that point before the first Rotom both times now, while the Bad Macro Flipbird is prioritizing getting pressure in the bottom lane, knowing that they want to secure this Dreadnought ASAP.
Tibby getting caught with a confusion and a blast here, and going to try and counter with the Sing as Dreadnought's here, but BMFB's all over it, and Chris Heroes, the Eldegoss is able to snipe it.
It is Eldegoss's turn for Random Gaming to be the one that throws in that Leaf Tornado and secure the objective. But worth noting, again, there is not a lot of secure potential for Bad Macro Flipbird, so this is a lot less of a surprise to happen from Random Gaming's side.
Absolutely. It was just a fraction more impressive when Snow Points did it in the face of a Dragonite. However, nothing to scoff at. Jay Rabson able to seal it up for their squad, and this is how they won game one. They were able to, a little bit behind on the levels, able to convert onto that Dreadnought, and there you go, Eldegoss on Eldegoss Crime to get them packing. But those levels look pretty even across the board here.
Absolute best case scenario, Random Gaming had two characters up top and they were able to secure both objectives, coming out really far ahead in these exchanges so far to start.
Yeah, top goal zone already closed out. Second tier goal zone for BMFB. Random Gaming going to keep the pressure on, see if they can convert onto this bottom one as Chris Heroes and company are trying to hold down this bottom lane. The jungler heading back to where they belong in the jungle, going to get those mobs as Tibby is coming in with that Sing. Going to try and isolate some of the BMFB's players and get some of the Bs, but they are unable to, not quite having the DPS output to seal that up for them.
Something I always love to call attention to for players at home, people watching these tournaments want to get better and learn more Unite, is just pay attention to how well and efficiently these teams are clearing all of the farm on this map at every given point. Yellow dots are very rarely up for more than a few seconds. They go in and get that really valuable experience to get their characters ahead against the opposing team.
Absolutely, and now it's almost as if there's a line through the middle of the map and nobody wants to cross it here as Tibby and Snow Points are just chipping into this contestable Audino. And quite frankly, you mentioned clear your farm, get your levels up that way, get the guaranteed experience, and then get ready for this next Dragon fight that's happening in 8 seconds.
As you say, no one wants to cross the line of the map. I'll call attention to this Greedent top left doing kind of Greedent sneaky things. Both Lucario and Cinder Ace on it. But again, that Greedent's buying valuable time. That Cinder Ace and that Lucario did eventually KO that Greedent there. But you know what they weren't doing? They weren't contesting this Dreadnought here at the bottom where Dragonite's hopefully going to secure this time. And it does.
Yeah, absolutely. Finally, they're like, oh, Adetsu, thank you for taking that up. And well sought by the Greedent. Yeah, they might have gotten KO'd for their effort, but they distracted. They did their job, right? Distract. Two of the smite potential Pokemon on BMFB side of the board, opening the door for Random Gaming to get themselves yet another Dreadnought. First off the Eldegoss, second off the more likely suspect, the Dragonite. Look at this fight breaking out. Dexter using close combat. With 2 players down on BMFB as Random Gaming starting to feel it, and they're pushing into Dexter here. That's 3 KOs, that's 4 KOs, and now everybody's coming off the spawn, and it's the Greedent leading the charge, and they're going to see if they can close out this goal zone as Greedent just goes past the goal zone to try and pressure into the face of BMFB to give their team the opportunity to get some of these points in, and I don't think this goal zone is long for this world. Bang! 50 going in, 35-point overcap there, Jeff.
This is exactly what we see frequently happen with these Dreadnoughts. Not only do you get ahead on experience, but you also get that healing and that shield, which means that after you secure that objective, you have an incredible advantage in the team fight that follows if the opposing team chooses not to abandon it.
Tibby and Adetsu working through the Rotom. Nobody from BMFB making their way up there. We're seeing the Eldegoss slowly creep up, but not enough to really put a presence. They shot a Leaf Tornado in there just as a hope and a prayer to see if they could steal one again. They are unable to. 3 minutes, 20 seconds on the clock. Random Gaming with a huge scoreboard lead, 202 points. Look at where this Greedent is. Just being an absolute man. That's a Unite move being expended to track down the Greedent.
Yeah, this is really good map awareness from Bad Macro Flipbird. These players are excellent at the game, and they are here in this event for a reason. Saw the Rotom coming with no friends, so they immediately pivoted everybody other than their jungler down to the bottom, knowing that pressure was going to be put on that bottom goal zone instead of the top.
The big Fire Lizard are going to try and hold down this goal zone, which as up to this point has been unscathed, but now the points are, I was going to say raining in, but that's only a 5. A Unite move coming in, that's kind of a bizarre time with 40 seconds until Zapdos, and now the Charizard is still holding it down, has prevented the goal zone from being completely closed out, but as you mentioned, that kind of plays into BMFB's strategy as the just spit and fire like Dalsim up in the top lane is that Charizard getting a KO streak of 2.
Something to note here, these Unite moves, they all have varying recharge times. Charizard, one of the faster Unite recharges in the game, so 240 generally a little bit late for that, but if you're able to secure some farm every time you secure a contested creep, Charizard's going to go ahead and get a little bit of its Unite move back.
Absolutely. They're posturing already around that Zapdos pit, making sure they are where they want to be. Greedent, again, just keeping BMFB from getting settled in and set up for this 2-minute mark.
As we head into this endgame fight, it's important to call out, not only do we have a point lead for Random Gaming, but we have more importantly a level lead. Level 14 Charizard to level 13 Cinderace, 13 Dragonite, 12s over-leveled on their team in the entirety.
Tibby getting caught on the Confusion Blast, but they're able to make it out as Gatlu's going to come in and put some pressure on BMFB, finally converging around the Zapdos pit, and aDrive's just there just in case they need to Hyper Beam into the guts of that thing. And now all the Unite moves are coming out, they're isolating, and they want aDrive's down. That's the person they want to take out so they can convert on the Zapdos as the pressure is just raining in. BMFB content with pushing out and coming in. Bruv with the Unite move, but nobody's really gone down until I say that, and that's Bruv on the nose by the Charizard, and Random Gaming's pressuring backwards very well as only their Eldegoss is down. aDrive's sits in their goal zone, going to get some of this HP back as Random Gaming kind of has the presence around the Zapdos, but here we go. Is the Greedent finally going to go down? And the answer for that particular moment is no, as Dexter's working through and they're taking them on, but now I believe that is Gosu and company that is, oh, I thought they had started Zapdos. They haven't even scratched it yet.
They're waiting for their team to come back up, and something that's important to note here, Charizard is down for 20 seconds for Random Gaming, and here comes the objective. Really scary to try and go in here on a Dragonite. Can Dragonite be able to secure this here?
Bang! Goes to easy peasy, takes it, and they have all the goal
bad
zones
macro.
Open. They have all the goal zones open, and they have only one player down, and that's Dexter. So if they have full pockets, full hearts, bright eyes, they can convert and take this thing down. But Random Gaming not going to go without kicking and screaming here, as it's all up to Chris Heroes to try and stem some of this bleeding, even after taking Zapdos. Here's Gosu for the save on the bottom goal zone. Unite move into Gosu's face, and that's going to open up the door to maybe convert on some points. aDrive's says, I don't want the points, I want the KOs, baby. Let's make it rain. And was that 321 to 328?
It looks like Bad Macro has successfully flipped a bird here at the end that have faced the Dragonite. And, you know, I feel like if you're Random Gaming, you walk away from these games wondering, you know, was Dragonite doing what we needed it to do? Or did this Hyper Beam nerf, you know, actually impact this character's ability to do what you wanted to, and that's secure objectives?
They did it. They win. They win, but just barely here as the names are switched based on who we're reviewing. Makes it just a fraction confusing, but BMFB able to punch their ticket into the next round here, and I believe that's who we're going to stick with. BMFB is going to be facing off against Team Shiny. Team Shiny able to win that G4 Invitational, and they're going to be a presence of mind of being able to square off against one of the more established squads, NAEU combo squads in Bad Macro Flipbird.